My name is Atkinson, Wilmoth, and I am here to tell my story about the Siloam Bridge Collapse, which happened in 1975 when I was 12 years old. Well, it was a foggy night. My brother and I were watching TV with our parents. We lived within sight of the Siloam Bridge. So our house is in the middle. Our grandparents' house was closer to the bridge, and then a neighbor's house was to the other side of us. So my grandparents and my aunt had been to visit the neighbors, and it was dark and foggy, like I said, and they heard somebody yelling for help down at the bridge. So they pulled in our driveway on their way down there and said, "We hear somebody hollering for help. We're going to go see what's going on." And so they wanted my dad to go with them. Well, little kids start screaming, "No, we want to go, we want to go." So they went ahead, and we jumped in the car with my parents, and we drove toward the bridge, which wasn't far. We'd been across that bridge 1,000 times in our lifetime. And when we got there, it was so foggy you couldn't see that the bridge wasn't there. So we were following my grandparents, and their car went, the bridge had a ramp that kind of went up like this. And so their car went up, and all of a sudden we saw it plunge. And we suddenly realized, my dad hollered, and he said, "Oh my gosh, the bridge is gone." And so he slammed on the brakes as hard as he could. And we just sort of almost stopped at the top of the ramp. But then we didn't. So the right wheel went over. I remember it clear as day. The right wheel went over, and then the left one went over, and we flipped upside down and landed on one of the beams from the bridge. So we were actually in our own tobacco field. That was our property down there. It was our tobacco field. When we flipped over, thank goodness, believe it or not, we didn't have seatbelts on, because if my mother and my brother had had a seatbelt on, they would have been completely crushed. It slung them this way, so we were all on this side of the car, and the beam hit on this side. Yeah, believe it or not. We're upside down. My dad starts trying to bust glass out, didn't realize all the glass is already broken, and so he starts to get us out of the car. Well, as he's getting us out of the car, he gets Mom out. Then Graham crawls where the car seat is, so he's under here. He crawls, he's getting out, and I was under there, and they saw a car fly over the top of us, and it landed in the river. So he finally got us out, got us on top of the car. Mom was hurt, her arm was broken, so he sent us running to the top of the hill where the road was, and he said, "Go stop cars and tell them what has happened." So my 10-year-old brother and I run, we knew exactly where we were. Like I said, it was our tobacco field. We'd been there hundreds of times. So we run to the road, and there are cars coming, they're going to cross the bridge, and it's too foggy, they can't see that it's not there. And so we stopped. The first man we stopped was Grover Scott, a neighbor, and we told him what had happened. And, we were just children. So at that point, he went to get help. No cell phones, nothing like that, So he went to get help, and we watched cars come across the other side. There was nobody there to stop cars. So we're standing looking, and we can see lights of cars going into the river from the other side. So that's how it began anyway. And so, you're just hoping everybody's okay. My dad swam out to my grandparents' car and my aunt, and he reaches in there and realizes that his parents are dead, and his sister is horribly hurt. And then he's by himself in the river, basically. It's February, the river's cold. And he's swimming from car to car, or moving from car to car, and realizes that he knows almost everybody that has plunged into this river. There was a couple, the Scotts, who were deaf, and he knew them, but they couldn't hear or speak. And they're in the middle of a river. And he goes over and he sees Bobby Matthews and his family, and then the other people that were there. So he stayed out there the whole time while all the rescue was going on, and we just sat on the bank and waited. It just, in the moment, when it happened, both of us, Graham and I both said that we felt like we were not in the car by ourselves, that God was in the car with us, that we were not hurt. Neither one of us was hurt at all. My dad was not hurt. He may have had a cut or two. My mom had the broken arm, but she, that was a broken arm. She would get better. And the whole time I'm sitting up there waiting, not knowing anything that's going on in that river. Well, absolutely. Nobody could tell us anything. Everybody was in there helping. And I was just praying that my grandparents were okay, not hurt. I had absolutely no idea that I would find out that they were dead, both of them, at the same time. Yeah, and they lived next door, so we saw them every day, every single day. So that was tough. You're just sitting there hoping everybody's okay, not realizing just how catastrophic this was going to be, or what a tragedy it's going to be. You have no idea as a 12-year-old. We weren't scared. I mean, we didn't have time to get scared when it happened. I remember after the fact, we needed to take Mom to the hospital, so we wanted to go to Winston. Well, that was the only way to Winston that we knew. There was a long way around to get across the river to get to Winston again. So we had to go to Pilot Mountain in the middle of the night. You didn't have 24-hour gas stations. So Hugh Nations, who ended up actually being my husband's uncle later, I was 12 years old, but this was his uncle that took us to the hospital. He was a police officer. We had to go to Pilot Mountain from Siloam to get gas and then go to the hospital that night. We were there all night long. And when I got home, my house was full of people from the whole community, just came together and helped us as much as they possibly could. I remember Mom got a phone call from California. A friend had seen it on the Today Show. Siloam made the Today Show with that tragedy. And then, my grandparents were dead, so my granddaddy brought the mail to us every single day. So there's the Monday, and all of a sudden we realized Granddaddy's not going to bring the mail today, So it's just, and my poor cousin Marion lived in Raleigh at the time, so she had grown up with my grandparents and her mother. They lived in the house next door. She was in Raleigh, and somebody heard about it. I think her father heard about it and was trying to get a hold of her in Raleigh. And back then, you could do an emergency break-in on phones. There were landlines. So he did an emergency break-in. Well, she thought we were all dead. There was no way to find out. She thought her whole family was dead. And so it was hours before she found out that she still had most of us left. So my aunt was hurt pretty bad, broke her hip and had a lot of different things wrong with her. So it was just a long haul after that. Well, in I'll get this date wrong, 1938, I think, they put that bridge there. It had already been 2 places before they ever put it in Siloam. My grandfather knew it wasn't safe. It had been closed except for local traffic. He knew it wasn't safe, and the week before, he had been over to an old store building, and the governor at the time was there. And he wanted to speak to the governor. He had a letter in his pocket for the governor and let him know that bridge wasn't safe and that something needed to be done before somebody got killed. And that was the week before. And he died with that letter in his pocket on that bridge that he knew was going to kill somebody. So it was quite a catastrophe. 4 people died, my grandparents, and then another lady and her small child died as well. There'll never be anything like it. When you see the bridge, what was the bridge that fell just recently that the ship hit?
Francis Scott Key.
Yes. And when you see that and you realize that there are only a few people in the whole world that even know what something like that is like, it's just an immediate type of, camaraderie, I guess, because we kind of communicated and went, well, there's not a whole lot of people that feel like those people do. We understand, what that's like. So why did the bridge fall? It was unsafe. It was rickety. The theories are that J.T. Venable hit the bridge and made it fall. We do not believe that. We think the bridge hit him on its way down. We think there were cracks in it already. And then the final They took the bridge out of the water. They laid it behind what was our pack house in Siloam. They reconstructed the whole thing. We have multiple pictures of that, but we think it was just old and in bad condition, and that it fell and hit his car, not that he hit the bridge and made it fall. That's what we think. That's what I felt like. When I talked to him, I honestly felt like that he felt like the bridge fell as he was on it. Like it just started collapsing and he was on it.